A little-known fact is it's a secret club in Parliament shared by Grant Robertson, myself and John Hayes. We are all, and Tim Grosser, we are all alumni of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And so I am very, very sad to have to record to the House today that the government's change program for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the savings of which are part of their budget, is going to be a complete and utter disaster. And that if that ministry is falling apart, there is no one to blame but its disreputable Minister Murray McCulley, the minister who is hanging his own chief executive out to dry and presiding over a change program that will only, on today's information, save $12 million.
Point of order, the honourable member John Hayes.
Mr. Speaker, I think that it's inappropriate for that Speaker to have used the word disreputable minister in reference to Mr McCulley. And I think he should withdraw.
It's a debatable point, and it's up to the member or the minister himself to raise a point of order. I call the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. That it's saving $12 million but spending $9 million to do it, net $3, and wrecking the Foreign Service in the process. But John Hayes did say something very revealing. I'm not sure that he was supposed to say it to the House, but he said the crucial thing is to contract the size of government. Contract the size of government. Well, there is the, absolutely, says the Minister, there is the agenda laid clear. National believes you can cut and sell your way out of a hole. Sell the assets, cut the government past the bone. Government delivers services that help the economy, Mr Speaker. A zero budget is what you get when the economy is failing. A zero budget is an admission by the government that it does not have a plan that is working. National's economic policy, if you can call it that, is simply selling assets, selling farms, crony deals and pokies. Mr Speaker, New Zealand deserves a whole lot better than that. Mr Key has said sticking to a plan that is working. Well, it's very hard to believe that we should call that the year-right budget. The year-right budget. The plan that is working apparently means unemployment up 43%, leaving 150,000 New Zealanders out of work. It apparently means 140,000 New Zealanders that have left the country because they cannot stand to wait for the brighter future the government has let them down on. Over 1,000 a week, Mr Speaker, voting with their feet because they've given up hope on their own homeland. 1,000 a week whose children won't be living in the same country as their grandparents. Mr Speaker, prices have gone up 4 times faster than wages and real incomes are falling. New Zealand's had its first credit rating in 13 years, the first since last time Mr English was Finance Minister. And it is amongst the lowest performing economies in the OECD under National, right down there with Greece. In fact, 29th out of 34, just below Greece on the rankings. There are 50,000 more people on benefits, costing over $1 billion a year extra. And the number of children living in benefit-dependent households has increased by over 32,000. The median income has gone down $82 a week under National. $82 a week worse off in real terms after inflation under National. I don't call that a brighter future. My family wouldn't call that a brighter future. Ordinary New Zealanders don't call that a brighter future. It is a bleaker future, Mr Speaker. National has failed to grow the economy. The mantra that the crucial thing is to cut government reveals the fatal flaw in their approach. They think their job is to balance the government's books. Mr Speaker, their job is to balance the country's books. Their job is to help New Zealanders live better lives through a prosperous economy, decent work and decent incomes. It is not primarily to balance the government's books, which at best, while we would do it too, is a means to an end. Mr Speaker, That is why the country's economy has grown less than 1% since John Key took office. Less than 1% in nearly 4 years. And in the last year, we've seen the magic disappearing $2 billion. They campaigned on a $1.5 billion surplus by 2015. And yet, in the last week, we now find out it's going to be a $640 million deficit. $2 billion gone in just 6 months. The reality is you can't cut services or people fast enough to race down that hill as fast as that budget is disappearing, because austerity economics does not work. Look, I'm fascinated. I was reading through The Economist, Mr. Speaker, and here I found in The Economist magazine an article on growth. There is an alternative to austerity, The Economist says. Look, when you read that in The Economist, and you've got this government presiding over a $2 billion budget hole in 6 months, Mr. Speaker, you know something is wrong. You know something is wrong. Something is deeply, deeply wrong. And here's the reason it's wrong. You can't cut and sell your way out of a hole. A zero budget means failure because you've got no other alternative. A zero budget is occurring because they've lost $2 billion in the last 6 months. Mr. Speaker, it gets worse. Nick Smith said, where's the money coming from? Fair enough question. Here's where it's not coming from. It's not coming from that $2 billion they just lost. It's not coming from the $200 million of ticket clippers' fees from selling the assets our parents built up. That's where it's not coming from. It should not coming from flogging the family silver. That's like selling your house to pay the mortgage and then renting a more expensive one. Sell your house to pay the mortgage and then rent for more than you were paying. Isn't that brilliant? Brilliant. That's why Bill English is not Prime Minister, because he got 2% last time. Souffle does not rise twice for Bill English, does it? I'll tell you where else it's coming from. It doesn't come from selling our land. This government thinks they can milk their cows to prosperity, but at the same time, they're selling off the land the cows are milking from. Go figure. Go figure. It's about value, not volume. It's about smarts, not grass. It's about the future, not the past. Of course the dairy industry is important, but hello, dairy prices fell 2.5% yesterday. And we've got too many cows in one basket. If we want to have a vital, growing, high-value economy, we need to do what the ratings agencies have told us. Moody's, Fitch, Standard & Poor's agree New Zealand has an under-diversified economy and too much private debt. Nationals answer, reduce the diversity and increase private debt even more. Ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. And why is it always that it's the small household that pays? Why does the ordinary Kiwi pay through less services and more GST to make up the $2 billion hole they just caused and the $200 million of asset stripping ticket clippers they're funding? Love to see when the kickbacks are revealed from that lot, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is crony capitalism at its very worst. The legion of dishonour is growing by the week. Banks.com, Sky City. We almost don't even need to explain because the public understands. Look at those members looking at their feet. Looking at their feet. Here is the country struggling. Here are New Zealanders trying to make ends meet, and there is National doing sweet deals for the big end of town, breaching good process. That's why that radical socialist Colin James said on TV, business is asking themselves, have the rules of the road changed? Do you have to do a private deal with John Key rather than rely on an MED budget process? Media works. Ministers doing fee remissions for companies they used to personally own. Appointing the Prime Minister's personal electorate chairman to the board of the broadcasting funder. selling the telecommunications law to fund a process they didn't have the gumption to write for themselves. The League of Dishonour goes on and on. Mr. Speaker, to conclude, a zero budget is what you get when your economy is failing. It is what you have instead of a real plan for growth and jobs.
I call the honourable member David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and that